Welcome back to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. I am Keith Riddle here with my co-host Jordan Tampien as always, and today's guest is Bobby Brett. How you
Welcome,
doing, Bobby?
guys.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Now that I got the busy part out of the way,
I know.
that intro every time.
Yeah.
It's so formal.
Bobby, I've heard we were just chatting before we went live here, but I've heard your name, around town and a million times. I'm a Spokane native. But I don't know much about you or your story. I'd love to hear more. But first and foremost, are you a Spokane native? Did you grow up here in Spokane?
No. Actually, the Brett family, we were born in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Okay.
So I'm 74. I know
Okay.
I don't act 74. But we were born in Brooklyn. My dad was one of those World War II guys. So born in Brooklyn. And then for some reason, when I was about 3 or 4 years old, we moved to West Virginia.
Okay.
And I could never find out, Mom, Dad, why did we move to West Virginia? But we were there for about a year, and that's where my younger brother George was born. He was born in West Virginia. And then in 1955, we moved to L.A., and that's where we grew up. And then I moved to Spokane in 1990.
And why did you move to Spokane?
Well,
what was the draw
in
there?
85, in our family, all the boys, it was 4 boys, we all played professional baseball. I got 2 of my brothers played in the major league, and then 2 of us played in the minor league. And then when I was finished playing in the minor leagues, I got into the investment business. And I was probably the one in the family that liked sports the most.
Okay.
And then, when I first started in real estate, it was always like sports, and I'd have season tickets to the LA Kings. I'd go to a lot of Dodger games, a lot of Laker games. So that was real close to our place. When I was living then, I was living in either Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, or Manhattan Beach.
Okay.
So when you buy your first starter home, you're in Redondo Beach, and then it's a little more expensive in Hermosa Beach, and then when you've arrived, you live in Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
So that's where I ended up living, and I always said, hey, it'd be fun to own a minor league sports team. So in 85, I went on a trip to the Northwest, where the whole West Coast, to say, hey, let's buy a minor league team.
That was the intention of the trip.
The trip was, I said, hey, we should go out, my brothers and I go out and buy a minor league team. And there was 7 teams for sale on the West Coast from California up to Spokane. My last trip, I went and looked at 7 teams in a 1-week period. A couple I saw 2 in one day. And I was very frustrated because after the first 6, I said, we wouldn't buy this team. Either the stadium wasn't good or the town wasn't good. I looked at the team in Eugene. I looked at the team in Roanoke Park, California, Salinas, California, Tri-Cities, Washington. Yeah. And my last stop was Spokane. So I'll never forget, I'm flying, I don't even know where I'm flying in from on this trip, but I remember pulling, the plane's going to land in Spokane, and I go, God, there's trees here. Yeah. We all know when you go to Tri-City, there's no trees.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been to Salinas, California, I always said Salinas isn't California. Yeah. So I'm going, oh, there's real trees. And then I land at the airport at Spokane, and I go, God, this is a real airport. And then I get my rental car and I come down the hill and I go, God, this is a real downtown. Yeah. And I was staying at the time the old Inn at the Park, which I think they call now the Centennial.
Centennial.
So the guy who I was dealing with, because the Indians were for sale, he got me a room at that room, and it just happened to be he got me a suite overlooking the river.
Yeah.
So I check into the room and I see that river and that park, and I go, God, this is really neat.
Yeah.
So I was so anxious. I go to the ballpark at like 4:00, and I see at the time it was called Indians Ballpark, and I come in and I walk around and I go, God, the place needs to be painted. Landscaping, geez, it's all overgrown. The place was dirty. But I said, from my background in real estate, I said, geez, little paint here, little landscaping. This could shine up pretty good, not for a lot of money. So now it's about 7:00 and the game's starting and whatever, and I want to call the broker. So I call the broker up from the pay telephone. Yeah. And I said, his name was Bob Freitas. And I called him up. I said, hey, Bob, yeah, I'm in Spokane here, and I really like this. I think I'm going to make an offer on the team. Yeah. And I haven't. I'd been to the ballpark for 2 hours. Yeah. We wanted to buy a team. Yeah. You know how it is. You move to a town and your wife going to buy a house. You got to buy a house.
Exactly.
So I wanted to buy the team, and I was 0 for 6 on the prior 6 cities. So I said, hey. So I said, his deal was he got a 10% commission. So I said, hey, I want to offer X, but that includes your commission paid by the seller rather than paid by the buyer. So he goes, okay, I'll call the seller. And I said, well, I'm going to be at the game, and I'll call you when I get back to the hotel. So now it's 2 or 3 hours later. I get back to the hotel. I call up Bob Freitas on the phone. I said, hey, Bob, Bobby Brett here. Did you hear anything? He goes, congrats, you bought a ball club.
What?
And I said, what? No counter offer, no nothing. And right away I said, can I use a cuss word here?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So then I said to myself, oh shit, I offered too much.
Yeah, exactly. Should have pulled that one back.
I would have felt way better if they would have countered at full price.
Yeah.
I would have felt way better.
Oh, exactly. Or at least countered something, one term or
Exactly.
something. In it.
Yeah, whatever.
Or my immediate thoughts like, what's wrong?
Exactly. Why did he give it away?
Yeah, and then you could say, oh, you're an experienced real estate guy. At the time, I'd been in real estate investment for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so always people say, well, did you have a pro forma? And I said, well, no, I had no pro forma. And basically I went back to my brothers and my real estate partner and a few close friends that wanted to invest. Yeah. And I said, hey, we're going to buy a minor league baseball team. Hopefully we won't lose too much money. And hopefully when we go to sell it in 5 years, we'll get our money back. That was the business plan. But I just thought it'd be cool to own a minor league team.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we bought that team in the summer of '85, so our first season was '86. And, we broke even the first year. We started making a little money. The county at the time, we put up a little bit of money to fix it up. They matched the money. And before you know it, little paint, little this. It was nothing.
Does the team own the ballpark or is the city?
No. The county owns the ballpark.
County owns the ballpark. Okay.
At least.
And really, that's what you want because we're minor league baseball. We play, at the time, we played 38 home games. We don't need the maintenance year-round on an outdoor stadium in cold weather and the property taxes and all that. So generally in the minor leagues, you lease the stadium.
Do you lease it for the season or you lease it per game?
For the season, for the baseball season. And then we can bring it. They have a rent. If we want to rent it for additional events, we can do that under favorable terms to us. But we choose just to kind of be in the baseball business. That's kind of what we do.
So you bought.
So that was the story.
Yeah.
No business plan, no nothing.
That's how you came to Spokane.
That's how So we bought that team in '85. And then, so I'd come up 2 or 3 times a year, and it was fun.
Okay.
I'd come to town, and I'd get treated really well. My general manager would, I'd go to speak at the chamber or whatever, and it was just fun. Yeah. So then, in '88, the hockey team is hemorrhaging money and losing money. He says, Bobby, we should buy the hockey team.
Boone Street Barn, man.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the Boone Street Barn. We named it the Boone Street Barn.
Oh, you did?
So, but I was, at the time, I was single in L.A., and it's like, if we buy the hockey team, they lose all kinds of money. I'm not interested in losing money. So then, a year later, I got married, had a kid, and now I'm saying, geez, this is really a nice town. And I was living in Manhattan Beach. And Manhattan Beach is not a good area to raise a family. I always say too much shit happens at the beach. It's too much. Now, when you're single and whatever, it's all great. But it's a tough area to raise kids at the beach. It really is. So I said, geez, if I get married, I want to stay married. And I want a nice, wholesome atmosphere to raise my family.
So I got to get out of the beach.
Well, if I'm going to get married and have kids, I have to move to either Palos Verdes or whatever. But I took a leap of faith, and I said, geez, if we buy the hockey team, I'll move up there for 6 months. So I rented a house at Liberty Lake, furnished house, for 6 months. And I always say that 6 months has turned into 35 years. Yeah. And that was when we bought the hockey team, it was for the 1990 season. So we owned the baseball team for 86, 87, 88, and 9. So I'd been up to Spokane enough to know I liked it.
Okay.
And then when you take the family aspect of it, I said, this would be a good place. But I kept my home in California for 3 or 4 years. So just the idea if the newness wore it
Do you
off.
still make it down to California much?
Well, we have real estate down there with my partner. My partner down there was my high school basketball coach who got out of coaching, and he's the one that kind of talked me into going to real estate after I played minor league baseball. So I'm going down later this month, but I don't like to go there because I like it up here so much.
Yeah.
Now, when my wife and I spend the winter in Scottsdale, which I really like Scottsdale, and then this time of year the weather's so good here.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, baseball. I get to go to the baseball games and.
Yeah, I think that's the side everybody ends up seeing. I'm going to have a few questions on why you actually wanted to do a team, because we talk about the soccer investment and your stuff a lot.
Yeah.
But wanted to dive in, how'd you get started in real estate? I think that's the side of it that people don't know.
Well, I played minor league baseball. So you're in high school, of course, you play sports. And when I was 12 or 13, I had not decided whether I was going to play for the Lakers or the Dodgers.
I mean, that's good choices.
And a lot of us were probably like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I got out of high school, I was a pretty good basketball player, I was a pretty good baseball player, and then I decided to go to college. I went to Cal Poly, and I went there to play basketball and baseball because I like basketball better than baseball, but looking back, I was probably a little better at baseball than I was basketball. So I did that, and then I had the opportunity to play professional baseball for a short.
Who'd you play for?
Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
And I played in Billings, Montana. Basically, I was after my junior year in college, and then I played in San Jose, and I got the opportunity. My brother George and I played together, and he was 3 grades younger than me.
Okay,
so I was out of college.
Where are you with the brothers? Are you the oldest brother?
I'm 3 or 4.
But you're the oldest?
George is the youngest then.
George is the youngest. I'm second youngest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So I'm playing in San Jose with George, and I'm playing the outfield, and I'm not playing all the time, kind of on the bench. And then you kind of look in the mirror, you go, well, maybe it's not going to work out. That guy playing in front of me, I'm 21 or 22. He's 19, and, he's 6'4". He runs like a deer. So you start looking in the mirror, and I see my brother George, and he's starting at third base. He was a high draft pick. He's 19. And as the season goes on, I said, George, you are friggin' good. How did you get this good? Because I always say with George, he was the 3rd best player in his high school team.
Yeah.
But that was a really good high school team.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But he just kept getting better and better.
Who were the other 2?
He had a guy named Scott McGregor who was drafted 12th overall that won 20 games one year. And then another guy who was drafted by Oakland who didn't make it. But George ended up being the best of the 3. Yeah. But and I give a lot of credit to the Kansas City Royals with, they took a chance on George, and he grew and he got more mature, and they developed him great. They did a good job of coaching him up, and he listened, and
So you said, I was going to ask you this early on, but you said all 4 of your brothers played ball.
Yeah.
Where did the love for ball come from? Brooklyn or what?
No, in Brooklyn, when my parents when they grew up, they lived in Brooklyn. There's all it is concrete.
Yeah.
So when my dad went to high school, it was a high school. It wasn't called like Jefferson High School. They had numbers.
Oh wow.
And then when World War II broke out, he left at 18.
They numbered the high schools?
Yeah, he went to like P114.
Oh.
Yeah.
And there was no sports teams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there just wasn't. There was no. Where were you going to have
a thing? Yeah.
Well, where
we're
going
to
to play sports?
I don't know. Maybe I watched too many Hollywood movies. I thought those kids just played with like fire hydrants and sticks
in the
street.
Yeah. Sticks in the street, man.
So my dad really never played sports, and then he was a World War II guy, and then he comes home and he marries his little high school sweetheart, and that's what it was. But the baseball thing came about when we moved to California. We moved to a little town called El Segundo, which when you land at L.A. Airport, and if you look to the left, that's El Segundo. It's a town of 12,000. And it's always been a baseball town. The city fathers had really good Little League facilities and a city park and had really good coaching. But way back, always had really good coaches, and baseball was the thing. So as you move to a place and everybody's got the kids, and so that's kind of, and we play other sports. My brother Ken was a really good football player. I was a good basketball player. We were all multi-sport athletes, but baseball was the one that, and we had a great high school coach. So that's just kind of the way it was. All your friends are playing, the parents. And it was a very cool time to grow up in the, late 50s, early 60s in California. Yeah. Really cool.
So you get into, so go ahead.
That's what I was about to ask,
you get into real estate post playing in the minors.
Well, what I did is played in the minors. So go to high school, go to college, play a couple of years in the minor leagues. Now I'm gonna get out. So now the Lakers aren't calling me.
Yeah.
The Dodgers aren't calling me. So now it's, what am I going to do? So as an athlete, I'll be a coach. So I get my teaching credential, and I get hired at Inglewood High School as the varsity baseball coach, and I think I'm 23 at the time, and I'm teaching biology. I didn't know anything about biology, but I was a biology teacher, and I was a coach. And at the time, you always keep in touch with your old coaches.
Got it.
And Cliff Warren was my high school basketball coach. And he always said, well, Bobby, if you're now going to be a school teacher, you're going to need something to do in the off season because or the summers, because you want to supplement your income, because you don't make a lot of money as a teacher. So he said, get your real estate license. So while I was getting my teaching credential, I got my real estate license.
Okay.
This coach told me to do it.
Yeah, smart.
And then that summer, the summer's coming on after my first year of teaching, and I realized on my teaching salary, I had like 30 days of money, and I was living with two guys in an apartment in Manhattan Beach, and I'm going, oh crap, my money's running out. So and I went through the real estate training program, so I worked residential real estate. And that summer, I made more money listing and selling and commissions in the 2.5 months than I made all year coaching. So now it's toward the end of the summer, and I call my guy Cliff. And I said, geez, Cliff, this real estate's pretty good. He had his own company, but he had said, you need to get some experience. So I said, geez, what should I do? I like the money, but I really like coaching and teaching. And he said, yeah, Bobby, you're going to know if you stay in teaching and coaching, you know what you're going to make 20 years from now. So I made the leap of faith that I quit my teaching job, and I stayed with the residential real estate company. And I did that for a total of a year. And I was pretty proud of myself. I had 26 listings and 26 sales.
Your first year?
Yeah.
That's good.
Jeez, that's really good your first year.
It was unbelievable. But all I did was work, and I was having fun. And the place I was working were a lot of ex-athletes.
Oh, that's
young guys. So I was working with some guys, and it was really good. But most of those were double. They told me, said, if you're going to get a listing, sell it yourself. You get both ends of the commission.
Yeah.
So I was probably 80% of those.
This
I got
in the
listing
60s,
and sales.
70s?
This was in 1975.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the market like then?
Interest rates just went to 10%.
Okay.
So they said, Bobby, you'll never make any money in selling real estate. This interest rates just went to 10, and a few years later it was 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't, just a young guy, and I wanted to make money, and I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked the freedom. You're on your own. I liked the guys I was working with. They had a pretty, the training, and they'd help me. And the owner of the company, hey, I have a client's looking to buy a house. He owned the company. He'd introduced me to him. So I got some freebies on that. And then I realized right away owning real estate was good, because some of the people in the office were young guys, and they were trying to buy one property a year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so
nice.
I ended up that first year buying 2 properties. And my brothers were both in the major leagues at the time. So I went to them, and they were my partners. So I said, hey, I'm going to buy this thing. You guys want to buy
Single family houses?
Duplex, fourplex,
Okay, yeah.
that type of thing. So I was with guys that had a culture of, they wanted to own real estate, because in Southern California, in the beach areas, the appreciation was pretty good.
Yeah.
So then after a year, my high school coach came to me, and he knew I was doing well. He took me out to lunch. He goes, time for you to leave and come work for me. So I kind of committed to him. Then I went back to tell my old boss, and then I said, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stay with you. So I went back and forth, and just ended up deciding to leave. And Cliff at the time, Cliff Warren, was buying property and syndicating them. So we had some partners and whatever, and then we were trying to buy on our own to keep, but you only have so much money. As we all know in the business, it takes money. Even back then, it took money.
Yeah.
So we were taking our commissions, putting them into deals. We were leveraging things out and whatever, and just kind of the way it was. But Cliff was the first one that kind of said, we're going to buy and hold.
Yeah.
He believed in buying and holding. And I'll never forget, he told me, he goes, well, my first pitch, Bobby, when I got in real estate, these Manhattan Beach homes, they were buying them for $17,000.
Oh, wow.
And he said, my sales pitch is, hey, Bill, you and your wife should buy a house, and it's going to double in 10 years.
Yeah.
So the $17,000 house was going to be worth $34,000 in 10 years. And I said, well, geez, that's a good line. I said, do you believe it? He goes, I sure hope so. But you don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know.
But 10 years later, that $17,000 house was probably $100,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah.
more than yeah.
But
Well,
think about it,
Manhattan
and then
Beach. Yeah.
think of 1977. I think inflation was rampant,
Yeah.
and then you look at I look back at that area,
Also,
the
with
South
the
Bay
inflation
area.
that caused
Everybody wants to live at the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had the school system. El Segundo had their own
Yeah.
school system. Manhattan Beach had their own school system. It's not part of LA City.
Yeah.
And everybody, like I said, everybody wants to live at the beach. Every
Yeah.
college graduate, you don't want to live 5 miles back. You want to live at the beach. So by accident, we were in a location everybody wanted to live. So we're buying small duplexes and fourplexes and stuff like that. You could always rent them, and rents started really going up.
Were your brothers are playing ball at this time professionally? Were professional athletes getting paid like they are today? I mean, were they making good
they
money?
were
or
making
were they-
good money, but I
Seems
always
like
say,
professional athletes' salaries have
George's-
just gone like
well,
in the
they've really
last
gone up.
20 years.
But let's say when George got to the big leagues in 1973, I think the minimum salary was $15,000.
Oh wow.
But this was at a time,
Relative.
Palos Verdes, California, which is
Yeah.
as fine as housing. The houses were 80 to 90,000 there.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
That
so
makes sense.
it's different. Like when I first started in real estate, there weren't $100,000 houses. And this is in LA.
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember my brother Ken. He was drafted 4th overall in the country in 1966, and he got an $85,000 signing bonus. To put it in perspective, he bought a brand new GTO, Pontiac GTO, for $3,000.
Oh wow.
And he bought a house in El Segundo for $17,000. So for $20,000 of his $85,000 bonus, he bought a brand new car,
And a house.
not a brand no older house,
yeah.
but he bought an
But
average
paid for a
house.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it went to.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but athletes always made good money. I mean,
Yeah. And as you've seen that cyclical thing, now you've been through obviously dips, all the parts. What have you found pretty consistent with real estate that keeps you doing it? Is it the tax shelter? What kind of keeps you?
well, it was always nice. You get, we were buying property that we were renting out, so the depreciation was always good. The depreciation. But back then, the properties we were buying in the beach, they didn't have positive cash flow. You'd put 20% down, you'd have a negative cash flow.
Yeah.
That's what wasn't like, oh, you're making 7% on your money or whatever, but it was basically an appreciation play.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's pretty.
But that's what we did. So when we were buying some, we had to raise additional money.
Yeah, I'd raise the money to have the 20% out to buy it, and also to float the
to
thing.
fund the losses.
yeah.
Yeah,
Now, at the end of the year, you got a big depreciation thing.
Yeah.
But we called it the green monster.
Yeah.
So we'd say, hey,
monster,
we're buying this property, this fourplex, let's say, and we paid $100,000, and we'd do what are the taxes, what is this, do our little underwriting, and then we'd say the loss is, at the end of the year, the loss is going to be $5,000. And we say, well, what's it going to be in the second year and third year? And generally, you have to believe in something.
Yeah.
And we'd say, well, geez, it's going to lose money for 3 years. So we got to collect that money up front. So we collect money for the green monster. Yeah. So sometimes in the 4th year, the green monster was hungry. You had to feed him again.
Yeah.
So that's the way. We had a Cliff. We had this green dragon-like thing and a picture on the wall, and he'd say, Bobby, green monster's hungry. We got to feed it.
Oh,
So
geez.
you're putting deals together. You're getting commissions, taking your money and putting them back in the deals.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, things started going up, and then interest rates started coming down.
Yeah. Which made that go up. Yeah.
And then you looked at it and go, geez, we have this debt at, let's say 13, and debt went to 11.
Oh wow.
So we could refinance and whatever like that. Lower payments and rents just continued to go up. I always tell young people today that if you look at rents at, let's just say, a typical one bedroom, what would an average one bedroom in Spokane rent for? $1,100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Average
Yeah.
is 1,100. Yeah.
So I see someone who's 20 years old, and I'll say, in your lifetime, it's probably going to be a $3,000 or $4,000 apartment.
Yeah.
Well, how could that be? I said, we're going to have inflation. We're always going to have inflation.
Yeah.
And the good thing about apartments and real estate, it's a good inflation hedge. So I always try to really push our young people to buy a house. Don't wait for, I'm going to wait timing for the market, because none of us know timing.
Yeah.
We don't know if rates are coming down below or whatever, but But I think it's a great inflation hedge, apartments or buying a house and buying a duplex and living in one of the units for a young person.
Yeah. Would you recommend somebody taking that same strategy like today?
Yes.
If you're just getting started, not to buy the house, but like feeding a green monster. Like I feel like I take a few risks like that, and I know I'm feeding the monster, but I love the location, or there's something unique about it.
Well,
but like if you were
location's
just,
everything.
But
To
that
me-
sounded like you got started doing it that way.
Well, we got started, but one mistake looking back that Cliff and I always made is we were looking for a deal. We were always looking for a good deal. And looking back, we should have just bought the best locations.
Yeah.
And when you buy the best location, you always feel like you're overpaying a little bit. But overpaying in 1975, if you look back 10 years and you say, oh my God, everybody would look back and say you stole it. So we bought some, we still own lots. We owned 100 apartment buildings at one time down there. They were anywhere from duplexes to 100 unit buildings.
Yeah.
But at one time we owned 100. Then we had some with partners.
Yep.
Then we found out that we really didn't want to have partners, because if you have a partner, a lot of them got into our deals. We'd syndicate the deal, and it was, we'd set it up as a 7-year type of thing. And then in 7 years, they wanted to sell. Because, and sometimes we'd buy out a partner or whatever, but we wanted to hold.
Yeah.
We thought that this is going to be our retirement, this cash flow, and it's only going to get better. So over the years, we went from 100 properties that I think Cliff and I still own together 26 in LA, in the beach areas. But he's in his 80s now. I'm 74. So we've been doing some swapping amongst ourselves to kind of get ready for the next generation. But we have some good properties. We have. And the other thing the biggest shock to me is we were buying property and we got a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
Right. You get a 30-year mortgage.
Yeah.
And so we'd buy those, and then the craziest thing in the world when I was young, you say, someone's going to say it's going to pay off in 30 years. Oh, okay. And you think you're 25, that's 55.
It's never going to get there.
Crazy thing, I think we own, let's say we own 26 properties together. I think 20 are free and clear. There's no debt.
Yeah.
But why do we have no debt? Because we've owned them for 40 years.
Yeah. Right.
And we manage our own property, Cliff manages just the properties we own, and basically it's the Warren family and the Brett family.
Nice.
So that's the crazy thing is if some young guy, him and his wife, go out and buy a house and they're 25, at 55 you own it free and clear.
Yeah.
And even if you decide to, I always say, try to hold on to the real estate. Try not to sell it. Now that's easier said than done, because we all know if you want to upgrade on a house, you're selling your $500,000 house, you want to buy $800,000. A lot of times you need the equity out of that one house to do it. You can defer your capital gain. So, but I look back at some of the good stuff we sold over the years, I say to myself, oh my God, if I could have found a way to keep that house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've had a few of those.
Oh, definitely
But
had a
it's
few
hard.
of those.
I think
super
it's
hard.
I think the hardest part for a 25-year-old when you're talking to them, and I live this all the time, is they don't think about 55. I don't even know that they can conceptualize.
But I couldn't.
Right, I couldn't either. So it's hard because you're like, oh, you're gonna own that thing free and clear by 55. You might as well tell them 120. Like they're like 55.
But it doesn't. But when you play it out, it is.
Yes.
It's very interesting,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we've done it with income properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You paid them off, and then the other thing, like paying off, we didn't wait 30 years to pay it off. So we all know I started with interest rates for 10, it went to 20, and then it went down to what, 4? Let's just say 4.
Yeah.
So we ran the era that we were buying pretty good, that we had a lot of loans on apartment buildings at 12.5.
Yeah.
And I remember when it went to 10, we were able to refinance, pull out additional money. So what we would do, we'd pull out additional money and pay off some of the smaller properties.
Yeah.
And then it went 12.5 to 10, 10 to 7.5, 7.5 to 5.
Yeah.
So what we did, sometimes we'd take a property, refinance it, and then we'd take that proceeds, which is tax-free, and pay off loans.
Yeah.
So that's how we did. So we have a few of our properties that have probably, we got a building by UCLA. It's a 76 unit building.
Were you
It's been
guys
fabulous? But we owe I think we owe $14 million on that. It's probably worth $40 million.
Yeah.
And we paid $6 million for it. We paid $6 million, but we have $14 million in debt.
Is there a
Because
reason?
of refinance? And when you go to loan to value, and
Yeah.
it still cash flows up
Yeah.
the yin yang.
Was there a reason you didn't do it? You have 26 paid off, which is like a goal for anybody doing this, but is there a reason you didn't put like 30? Because it is like you could have put 30% debt on those, and then had that cash available when it got to 4 and 5%.
We were using the refinance money to not only pay off loans but buy additional property.
Okay, yeah.
So this gave us an opportunity to buy more real estate.
Yeah.
And we still, again, as you know, Jordan, is we have one loan with State Farm where they're only going to loan you so much.
Yeah, exactly.
So and roughly, let's say it's a 60% loan to value, and you say, hey, I want a cash flow, and I want to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So from the 70s all the way up to 2025 right now, what do you think was the biggest market shift that you saw?
Well, I'll never forget, and again, when we bought the baseball team in 85, so we think back at, why did I do that in 85? We're buying real estate. Well, I always said between 85 and 89, we bought one property.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
One.
In 4 years.
In 4 years, we bought one property.
Wow.
And one reason we didn't buy is at that time, rents were flat, expenses were going up. And again, and I look back and I said, here, I'm a business guy, like to do deals. So that's when, let's go buy a minor league baseball team. At the same time, we opened a sports bar. Did a sports bar thing. That's what people tell me to do. But the time, and a lot of guys I know from 85 to 90, there was a lot of guys who were ex-athletes in high school in our area that, matriculate to real estate and try to syndicate real estate. And I'd say 80% of the guys that were, Cliff and I would look and I'd say, geez, that Dale Marks owns some great properties, or this guy owns some great properties. And, we were kind of conservative. And they were a little more risk adverse to us. But, we were buying properties. But it always felt like guys did more. They had more than us. But during 85 and 90, 80% of them went broke.
Yeah.
High leverage or whatever. They went broke, completely broke, and their investors lost the money. Our time, we had the Green Monster was hungry. We had to feed the Green Monster, which wasn't fun. He was hungry a lot. But we held on. We just didn't sell. A lot of other people were still buying. The market wasn't right. And
were you still doing real estate actively at that point in time? Were you doing
Well,
commercial
no.
or residential
Brokerage
real estate?
sales?
Basically, not. Basically, no brokerage.
Gotcha.
When I went to work for Cliff, we were just buying, syndicating.
So
and
when
whatever.
Cliff said, you learn the ropes, come play for me in the big leagues, he kind of was getting you out of the day-to-day hustle of sales, and you were going into the investment.
Well, he
wanted
wanted me to see if I was any good at it, get some experience in listing and selling houses to see if I was any good.
Yeah.
Which it was good getting some experience. I love selling houses, though. It was really fun. I liked it a lot. But I wanted to make money, and I was making really good money, but I Cliff had kind of said, to get rich you got to own real estate and own real estate in the long haul.
What was Cliff's background?
He was a baseball player at Pepperdine.
Okay.
And then he got married, and he was a coach. He was a really successful high school basketball coach, and he went into real estate, I think, at 29.
Okay. So
Probably,
he just
probably
learned
a summer
the ropes.
gig and then just learned the ropes.
Well, he ended up getting divorced. And
then you
then
really
didn't
gotta
want
make
to,
money.
and he wanted to be a college coach, but he couldn't get a college job. And then he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend said, "Hey," and she was a flight attendant. He goes, "Hey, you gotta get off my couch. You gotta go get a job." Then he said he tried to get a job as a stockbroker. No one would hire him. He was a PE major in college. And ended up, he said he was driving one day by the beach and he saw a real estate office. Oh, I'll go in. He went in and introduced himself, and the guy goes, "Oh, you were the coach at El Segundo. I used to come watch your teams play."
Really?
And they hired him, and he was
Nice.
a dynamo. He worked in residential for 2 or 3 years, then started buying properties.
Yeah. Well, you own some of the coolest properties in Spokane that I know of. And as we're looking at them, what do you think is, because there's obviously two different markets, what do you like or dislike the most about Spokane from a comparison to your properties in California?
Well, I live here, so I get to see these
'em,
properties more often. And then one thing I learned in California, I wish we would have bought in better locations.
Yeah.
I mean, our stuff is fine, don't get me wrong, but some of the properties that we could have bought, that when I go to LA and I drive by, I go, oh my God, we could have bought this triplex for $85,000, and we only thought it was worth $75,000.
Yeah.
And I always say now, if you get within about 5% on a deal, you got to find a way to make the deal. The buyer and seller should find a way. And I'm not saying the buyer has to pay 5% more, but if you're within 5% on a deal, for some reason, you got to find a way to make it work.
Yeah. Well, that's how I carved my living. I would come right behind Bobby's offers. So
Yeah.
he would go to every building first.
No.
And then he would put in his offer, and the seller would get pissed because he's obviously trying to get the right price. And then I'd come in right behind and be like, well,
Yeah.
I don't really want to fight you. Let's just go
Well,
mine is just let's just go up 5% and call it a deal.
But
so
we
I got
all-
the Brick West building,
Well, the Brick West
the
building
Lola
was
Loft
unbelievable.
building, and then
Those are
Ultimate
great
Scott's.
buildings, yeah. And but like Durkin's, I own that property, and I love that property. It's
It's
on Main
so
Street.
cool.
And now we're demoing the second and third floor. I'm putting in 4 apartments there.
Oh, that'd be good. Like condo style or for rent?
Probably condos, but for rent.
For rent, yeah, but condo size. And,
Yeah. But the same thing with condo liability. So, again, it's one that if I look on a piece of paper, it's not going to make sense today. However, if I look at Bo will own this 20 years from now, then you say, hey, I'm on Main Street, this cool historic building, and with Durkin's and whatever. And then upstairs we have these really frigging cool apartments.
Oh.
No different than the Soulful Soup building sold.
Yep.
And that is such a cool building, and it sold for a big price, right?
Super big, 225, yeah.
Yeah, so it sold for a big price per square foot.
Yeah.
So again, I think that was a special property,
Yep.
and it got a special price.
Did you ever go in it?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Mike did it.
it's really
Mike's
cool.
an interesting guy, but
Yeah,
did
and
a
same
good
thing.
job.
Brick West is a great building. Your Lolo's a
But
great
that's kind of our
building.
Peyton gamble in a lot of ways. Is that so? I base mine on if Boise can get there, we can get there, and I would be downtown Boise, and I'm like, how much is that? And it was a very similar building to Peyton, and it ended up being like $52 million, and I'm like, okay, that's about almost $450 a door.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we're not going to get there fast, but if you do it right and do it now, it's not going to get cheaper to renovate that building.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where some of the pieces. What's your favorite one to date? Spokane one, just so we have a reference.
I don't. The Soto building. Chris and I are involved, and we bought a shell, and that was cool doing.
Yeah.
Now it hasn't worked out as good because we're on 3rd Street, and with the politics in the state and the city, it's kind of a hellhole over there on
Trust me,
South.
I'm on 3rd, so
Yeah. and again, that was such a cool building, and we have small units, and when we leased that, probably 8 years ago, before all the stuff's happening downtown, we have all these first-time college students coming in, and it was so cool. We rented them like hotcakes.
Yeah.
And they were so excited. It was a college student's first apartment. It was so cool.
And they were nice. You guys did a really good job
They did a
renovating.
really cool job. But now everybody's concerned about the neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So, we got to change our politics is going to change. I don't know if it's going to change a year from now, 2 years from now, but even in California and Seattle, they
It's
realize
changing.
that this, there needs to be some accountability for what's going on, because we look at the vacancy rate in Spokane. I look at Spokane, I go, no different than when I showed up in 1985. That park is unbelievable.
Yep.
The river is unbelievable. I've been on Boise's River.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. We have little Niagara Falls here.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. It's more,
there's
streams through the whole town. It's just not the same the same experience.
Yeah. So when I look at this, and I say to myself is, if you look and you say the what's going on with the vagrancy downtown and the crime and the graffiti, that's going to change, because nobody wants that.
No.
And so I'm in for the long haul. So the idea, if this takes a year, 2 years, 5 years, what I look at is what's it going to be? What's it going to be like 6 years from now?
Yeah.
You look at what the Coles did downtown, what Walt Worthy did downtown. Then a lot of us just followed them.
Yeah.
Geez, look what the Coles did with that. Look what Walt did. And then a lot of other people, Dave Black, Chris Batten, everybody kind of stepped up a little bit. And we've all made a lot of investment, and we're not being treated fairly by the local politicians. And that's just what it is. But that's going to change, because everybody wants a safe downtown.
Correct.
Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
And again, the article in the paper the other day, it had the big thing about the assessed values of these buildings. Chris Batten just paid $2.2 million for a building. So what's going to happen? The tax collections from the city are going to go down. You're going to appeal all
every one of them now.
We're all going to appeal, and we're going to win. I'd rather pay more taxes because we're so vibrant.
Correct.
But we're going to pay less property taxes. So I think that's just a matter of time. And I'm hoping it's sooner than later. And I'm not mad at anybody. I get it. We all trying to have compassion for people. But the compassion that the city is taking the stance on is killing small business. It's killing, when we look at Chad White having to close his place. Chad White is a good man, did a great job, but he got broken into. We own that building, Chris and I. He got broken into 10 times.
10?
10 different times. No consequences for the people. So there needs to be consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same train where I think it definitely can be solved. It's just trying to figure out the cart before the horse, like what comes first. But I think it's, as I'm seeing it, it's just having housing. I remember going to New York and just walking around. It wasn't that they didn't have homeless. It's they had so many other people that had blocked it out or had parts of that. And so I'm kind of excited to see what that
But I think there's a
looks
lot
like.
of people that, in spite of the safety issue downtown, they believe in Spokane in the long haul.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know Chris does, Chris Batten. So again, I just can't imagine this is going to continue. It cannot continue the way it is. And then with, a new administration on the federal level, I mean, there's some things, more of a conservative type of thing that people need to be held accountable. We want to be compassionate, but we can't cater to the 1% that are causing the vacancies downtown. It's interesting when you look at Coeur d'Alene, they say downtown has 4% vacant with commercial and office and retail, and we're 30.
Yeah.
Boise 4%, we're 30.
Yeah.
Well, what's the difference?
It's
Coeur
pretty clear.
d'Alene, Coeur d'Alene is beautiful, but our downtown is every bit as good as Coeur d'Alene. I'll put our riverfront park against anybody's in the country.
Yeah.
Anybody's.
Yeah. Well, and we're starting to get more people in town. I think what they say, 12 million people came through, tourists. It's the kind of dollars we want. And you're starting to have that piece to it.
Well, we have the tourism coming in with, when you look at the Hoop Fest and all that stuff and the convention center, the NC2A basketball. But as people walk through downtown and they see that, that's not helping us. No. We can get them into town. And we can get them on maybe Riverside and Maine, but when you get off Riverside, Maine, go further south, it's a little rough over there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Trust me. Yeah. Chris moved in as a neighbor. I told him, thanks for fixing that one up.
Yeah.
So what, as far as Spokane, you've been here now forever. What's one of your favorite things to do in Spokane?
What is it? Favorite thing? Well, I love the Chiefs and the Indians. That's fun.
I love the Chiefs and the
super
Indians,
fun.
man.
I love
they
that.
are super fun.
And so I like doing that.
The
And
Chiefs
then,
had a hell of a year this year.
we had an unbelievable year. We had a great team. The guys did a good job. We had.
Do you get to mix it up with the guys?
The what?
The players.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That would be my like.
And it's so much fun
Yeah.
because our players are 16 to 20 years old and mainly Canadian, and they're such nice kids. So at my age, I go in and I get to talk to them and give them a little advice. A lot of times I give them some advice on life, and they kind of look at me like I'm kind of crazy. But
you're like, buy real estate.
It keeps you young.
Yeah.
Being around these young kids and whatever. And
how about your ball players? What's the average age of an Indian?
Indians are probably average age would be 22, 23.
Okay.
And it's different because in baseball, we're affiliated with the Rockies. So these are Colorado Rocky players. So they sign them, and they're typically here for 1 year. And if they're really good, they might be here for a half a year, and then they move up.
Oh, okay.
And if they usually come back at our level for 2 years, meaning they're not very good. They need more seasoning at this level.
Got it.
So, you really don't get to know the baseball players. But the hockey players, we draft them at 14 years old, and they can play at 16 years old.
Man, that's so
ones.
crazy.
And they just move here, right? They move here for the season, and then they do
live
school
with families.
here.
Yeah, the hockey players, we put them in host families.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who are high school age, we do online education. We have tutors, and so these are kids that are all trying to get drafted in the NHL, and some of them will make it, and some don't. And one of our jobs is to teach them some good life lessons, not only on the ice but off the ice. But generally speaking, the hockey kid, it's unbelievable. A lot of these kids are from small Canadian towns, and they're yes sir, no sir type of guys.
Nice.
So when they first come in, it's nice to meet you, Mr. Brett, and I said, well, I'm Bobby.
Start on the right foot.
They're young kids,
Yeah.
So they're really fun. Everything about that's really fun.
Yeah. No, I enjoy those. And I think Spokane is actually, if you're talking about amenities, I think that's one of the really cool things because to have this, and when you brought soccer, so I mean, to have soccer and have hockey and to have baseball, like right here in Spokane.
We got a lot of affordable family entertainment in town, and the stadium that Jordan's team plays at, they did a wonderful job. It's Spartan, it's clean. Yeah. And especially on the west side, when you get up to that second deck, the views are unbelievable, the sight lines.
Oh, it's super awesome. And I had one of the best days. This is my promotion for living downtown. Went over, it was one of the mornings on a Saturday. We went out, got brunch at House of Brunch, went over and played at the Ice Age Park, had the soccer game on an early game.
Yeah.
So we go to the soccer game, we get out and we're like, we should go get dinner. And then everybody's walking to the Chiefs game. And I'm like, why don't we just go to a Chiefs game? So we all wandered over to the Chiefs game. So from the morning that was my downtown experience, was brunch to playing the park to grabbing a drink at Casa to then going to the soccer game, then finishing off with the Chiefs game. And I'm like,
and not many cities have where you have the arena and the football stadium right there. And especially if you live in the area, you can walk.
Yeah. You know? And we just took Lime scooters. It's why, to your point, I believe we will get through this, and because we're laying such good foundations everywhere else, like things that the people are behind. City officials are behind, like growing it from that way. Now it's just focusing and getting the last piece of it, feeling safe, and some of the perception things with downtown. So
no, I agree.
Yeah. So where's your next spot? What are you still actively buying? I know I always ask you to buy. I always ask you to buy my stuff.
Trying. So no, we have a building a guy called us on we're looking at, but it's like everything. It always seems like, even now it seems like when we're looking at stuff, a guy has the price of his apartment building is based on 5% interest rates or 4%. You know what I'm saying? And then you say it's 6%, and everybody, So then you look at what's the upside. To me, it's like what the upside. But there's a guy called, and we're looking at it. And I'm trying to find a way to make it work, but I think his price might be just too high.
Yeah.
But I like to look. I really like to look, but I want to buy good stuff. And you don't have to buy a whole bunch. I always said a young guy. I always say if let's just say a young guy is going to be in real estate. I said, if you're going to sell real estate, buy a house. Yeah. You should own a house. And then try to buy an investment property once every 1 or 2 years. It might be a duplex. Maybe you bring in your parents, maybe your brothers as partner. But a goal could be every year, every 2 years, try to buy something.
Yeah.
And you play that game of collect the rents.
Learn how to do it.
Look 20 years from now, you can say, hey, because I always say Social Security and the government's not going to be there for you.
No, it's especially if you're 20 now. I think.
If you're 20 now, I'm like, I might have to retire at the age of 80 though to get paid.
Yeah. But how nice is it if you own something? You're not relying on somebody else. Hey, my Social Security payment isn't too high, or my retirement as a school teacher. Yeah. You're taking control of your life.
In all of those ups and downs, you talked about that 85 to 89 period where you saw a bunch of people lose it all.
The tough thing is with that, when times are tough, it's easy to panic and sell.
Yeah.
Most people, and I've heard this, I'm not a stock market guy, but I've heard this from a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most people buy at the wrong time in the stock market. When it's going up, they're buying, and as soon as a big dip, they sell. They buy at the wrong time and sell at the wrong time. But real estate, I always say my thing is buy it, improve it, keep it forever. That's the game plan. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to do that with all properties, but that's how I would advise anybody you're going to hold this property and own it forever. If you sell it after 5 years or 7 years, it might be a reason, but most people can't afford to hold it during the bad times when you might have to feed the green monster.
Yeah.
Jordan, if you ever saw that green monster, it was the meanest looking thing you've ever saw. But he was hungry.
I'm visualizing it.
The green monster,
super hungry.
The green monster is hungry. And when he's hungry.
And I think that's kind of this last 2 years of mine was like trying to, as hard as I could, to hang on to him, because actually when I look at the projects I did they weren't bad projects. The issue was the delay didn't make sense to improve the project.
Yeah.
So a lot of them I was building an apartment on them. Well, there was a good stretch of 18 months. It wasn't worth putting an apartment on anything. Yeah. It was better to go find it.
And the other thing too is we all know is when you tie up a piece of dirt, for example, by the time you finish the apartments 2.5 years later, interest rates could move against you in the big thing. So Cliff and I,
they went from 4 to 7 in 6 months.
Yeah. But Cliff and I were 2 PE majors. So always Cliff said, when we knew some guys that built apartments and did that, and I remember we'd meet with these guys, hey, you guys should be building your own apartments. And Cliff and I looked at that, he goes, Bobby, I don't think we're smart enough. One thing, if we look at a property, we know what the rents are now. We can kick the tires and look at the building.
It's done.
Oh, this and that. And we know what our interest rate's going to be.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, and I look back at Cliff had a pretty simple philosophy. We weren't going to develop. We were just going to buy existing stuff. That's what we were going to do.
Yeah.
Well, the variables don't
one
change.
at a time.
Well, and that's the wash I got caught in. I had 3 pending large apartment deals under contract, right?
Yeah.
March of 2022 that were set to be finished by the end of the summer. They do get finished by the end of the summer, just like I told them they would. But from March 2022 to September 2022, they went up. The rate was 8.5%, went from 4 to 8.5, and they retraded us down $6 million.
The other thing you look back is we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but we all know what happened in COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, and the idea of, what is it going to cost? What is the lumber going to cost? Yeah. What's this going to cost? And even that could be on a remodeling of units. I remember before COVID, it seemed like we'd fix up a unit. We'd go, hey, we're going to put a new cabinets in, a new kitchen or whatever, and it seemed like it was $10,000 for a few.
Yeah, it was
complete $10,000.
It was.
Now what is it?
36.
Yeah.
So a 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit used to cost us studs out, so we could rip the drywall off and put it back on for $10,000 to $12,000.
Yeah.
In an apartment unit, and now that same turn is $36,000.
Yeah. So what you used to be able to do is let's say $10,000. So you say, hey, it's going to cost us $10,000. Yeah. What are we going to bump the rents?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say you're going to get $200 more on the rents. So what we'd say, okay, it's going to cost $10,000, and we get $2,400 back. That's a 24% return. Yeah. That's a good deal.
Yeah. But now you're getting $150 to $200 on $36,000.
Yes.
And so you're getting 4 to 5% return. I don't know. That's gonna be. And then with the new rent control stuff, I was like, I don't know who's gonna take a C-class building anymore and try to fix it up.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. So that's what we face. Is, we bought a couple buildings from the Wellses. Yeah. And those units, when we're doing light remodels, but even a light remodel's $8,000 and doesn't get you really anything.
Yeah, it's like because really you could go do what I did to Little Lofts to the San Marco, and that San Marco would be cooler than Little how you could do it. But then you're like, but if I'm limited on what you can increase the rent to, it'll never repay.
So what we're doing on that building is just when there's a turn, we just kind of go in and evaluate. Yeah. What if the rent's going to go up? What can we do? Yeah. But a lot of times it's just a turn and burn.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of times,
little paint, little here, but it seems like always maybe it's flooring or something you have to do.
Yeah, I always pitch them to buy the Little Lofts, but it's comparison. So San Marco's the opposite side, so north side, but it's a cool triangle end piece. But because I was like, dude, I have brand new electrical, sewer, everything's brand new in this thing. Yeah. He's like, but I get better rents. So it's like, it's trying to figure out, not better rents, better per dollar, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it's hard. It's like you try to buy, we've always, you do your little underwriting, and, they never make as much as you're sure hoping they make. But but we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah. So. I have one selfish question, because this would help me as I'm building the next one. How much did you set aside per project to feed the Green Monster? Was it literally just looking at the net cash flow loss, and then you wanted...
Back in L.A., we would typically raise 3 years worth of money. Again, in Jordan, in the 4th year or the 5th year,
a lot of times it's still hungry.
You don't know. And then our partnerships at the time is that no one had to put up a cash call. So in the 4th year, if the
GPs funded everything,
if the Green Monster was still hungry, we had to put up the money as preferred capital.
And then you got preferred capital on whatever injection you put in there. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, we get paid, but that's no fun.
No, trust me, that's what I've been doing. So
it's no fun, but that was the reality. Yeah. And one thing is funny when, and the other thing that changed I think it was '85, they changed the tax rules on real estate. Real estate used to be, you got so many tax write-offs, and I believe that the federal government came in and changed the tax rules. And it was, you can only write off a certain amount. Yeah. People would just be able to write off everything. And looking back, maybe that wasn't 85. I think that was between 85 and 90. And they put that tax, so these weren't as big a tax shelter deals. Mm-hmm. And property went down. Yeah. And I remember at that time, we went to an auction one time in ballroom in Orange County someplace, and the banks took all these properties, and everybody's scared shitless. And these are properties up for auction. I look back, if we had enough money,
Just bought them all.
beyond imagination. But what happened then, properties values went down, and you had to buy property now with the new tax laws. It made some sort of sense.
Yeah.
And some sort of sense at that time was, because we bought a 120-unit building like a year later, and I'll never forget it. We bought a 120-unit building. We paid like $6.6 million for it, and we underwrote it, our little simple PE major guys, and it had a 7% cash-on-cash return, and I think our interest rate was 11%. But after 11% interest, we beat it up, and it made 7%. And we're saying, how can we not buy this? What are we missing? No green monster.
Yeah.
We're putting 25% down and getting 7% cash on cash, but we're looking around and no one is buying.
Yeah.
Nobody. Oh. And we're going, oh my God, we must be paying too much.
Again. Moral of the story.
Right.
Yeah. And now we got a 120-unit building free and clear.
Oh, yeah. It's worth it significantly
Yeah.
more.
So it just, I don't know. It just, that.
So what's kind of your piece
And
of
even
advice
today, though, you look and say, hey, let's say you're buying a property and it only shows 2% cash on cash. Well, I look back, there's no green monster.
Right. There's no green monster, and you're still going to catch appreciation.
But, we don't know. I think all of us don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. I think with Trump in, it looks like inflation numbers are coming down. I think rates are going to come down a little bit. I believe that in the next few years. I think he's doing some good things of the waste, fraud, and abuse. What I don't understand is Microsoft just laid off, 1,000 people the other day?
Yeah.
Were anybody from the government picketing outside of Microsoft offices? You're losing these jobs, or Starbucks laid off a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. But why, when the government's saying, "Hey, we're cutting down wage," or what do they call waste, fraud, and abuse in the government? Why are we having pickets over that? I mean, this is our money that we're wasting. Yeah. Taxpayers' money. I think we should be celebrating. We're not giving money to Africa for some of the things they're giving down there. I mean, some of the things that must pound.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's crazy to look at the long haul of things, and you have so much more experience with this than we do. But when I'm thinking about like COVID happening, or you think about 9/11, like there's so many, when you're a young entrepreneur making these investments, it's usually the things that you can't even think of that will like pinch you or get you.
Yeah, who knows what happened?
Yeah. Like you can make the safest bet, like, well, this might do this, might go to war. Where's interest rates going to go? And it's like, oh, a world pandemic's going to lock you in your house and shut the economy down.
No,
like, well, I didn't pencil that out 4 years ago.
The other one was Warren Buffett. I mean, I've always admired Warren Buffett. Yeah. And one of the things he has, like even on the stock market, he goes, don't bet against America. That's one of his things. Yeah. Invest. He's invested.
Oh.
Don't bet against America.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. No, it's funny because
we still are probably the greatest country in the world. Yeah.
And we still have the best
there's
markets.
There's a reason that people want to come here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's lining up to get into Yemen today, are they? Or
I would hope not.
Really?
I doubt it.
Anybody said I want to go live in the Congo?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and that could be our ace in the hole too when it comes to population, because that's gonna.
So Warren Buffett's a guy I always like to read his stuff, but he's very simple and. Like he said, for most investors, just buy a low, index fund, low cost index
Vanguard
fund,
index
and hold it.
Yep.
So long-term hold.
Mm-hmm.
But real estate, it's funny that when you look at real estate over the last, since I started in the 70s, that it doesn't just go up 5% a year or whatever.
Right.
It might go up like this, then it levels, and it might come down a little bit, and then it,
Yeah.
Who's to say what might happen if we get to 3 or 4% interest rates again? We don't know. Yeah. I don't think it's going to there.
But if it does, it's going to spike again. Yeah, it's just one of those pieces. So what advice, I guess, because we're getting close on your time, what advice would you give somebody just starting out? Kind of, because that's what I think a message is.
As a realtor or a buyer?
As somebody who got out and they're looking to invest in real estate as kind of a...
I don't know. I think if someone's looking to invest, I guess you can invest with someone else. But I always like if someone has some money to invest, go buy a rental house or a duplex or a fourplex and live in one of the units. if you can raise some money from friends and family, but live in the unit, manage the unit.
Yeah. Basically get started.
Get started.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Young
love that
couple
advice.
can live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment.
I know. Well,
And I love that advice because I think I love the fact as a real estate guy, but I love the fact of hearing you and knowing who you are and all that you've done. You still talk about duplexes and fourplexes and triplexes. You know, I think everybody's swinging for these big apartments or these grandioso like projects, or they want to buy a big, you know. And I'm like, no, like base hits or
Singles.
Singles. You know, like
And a point in my life too. Now you get older, and to me, is my brother George is one of my partners on most deals, and I just said, George, we're at a point in life we don't need to hit home runs. We need to hit singles. But maybe it's a really good piece of property you want to own. You look at the next generation and owning that or inheriting that. But
Have
it's
you
cool.
been able-
I like that Durkins building. I like that building.
That
I
is-
walk
that
by
is a
and I go,
cool
"Oh,
building.
I own this building.
that is a cool building.
yeah, and I just genuinely want to say thanks for all you're doing in
And
Spokane.
Avenida,
right?
I own
Oh,
that right
so
down
cool.
by you. I think
Yeah.
you and I own a lot of that stuff at that end.
I know.
The other one I tried to buy, but Diamond got it, was the Avenida in the Marlboro,
Oh yeah, that's
right by Italia. So
Yep.
when the
And
wells
Brown's
were going to
Edition.
sell, we were talking with Diamonds. We know the Diamonds pretty well, and it was kind of like they kind of controlled the deal, and I was hoping to say they wanted the one, and I can get.
Yeah,
I love that Avenida, but
That's
they
so
ended
cool.
up wanting those, and so we got the other ones.
yeah. You got two good ones because you got
I
the
got two good
Buena
ones,
Vista and then the.
But the Avenida right next to Elk, and
Yeah.
it is so cool.
yeah, did you look at the Espanola over there? The other two.
I didn't like that building.
Yeah, they're not as well built.
That's well built, and the location isn't as good.
Yeah.
And it's funny, even when you look at location, I said is that, to say, oh, Brown's Edition is no good. I think Brown's Edition's okay.
Yeah.
But a little pocket might be a half a block area. You go, geez, this is really cool. But you go a block away, and it's not as good. So I think submarkets too.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
There's some properties in Brown's Edition I'd sure like to own.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But that one, the Avenida, or not the Avenida,
The
the
other-
other one.
yeah.
That little pocket. I've never liked that pocket. We had chances to buy that like 3 times,
Yeah.
but just didn't work out.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for,
Yeah.
been
for
fun.
coming on
Good.
the show, but also for everything you do for Spokane. like
Yeah.
Jordan said.
Super thankful.
You got a new
Really
friend
cool.
now.
See?
The number here.
Yeah, well, I've always, I love what you do. I just, I've never met you.
Well,
so
Andy's
I
a
love-
hockey guy.
I love
Yeah.
hockey.
That's the other thing, too.
The other thing
I grew up
about
playing
Spokane,
baseball.
you look at it, is that that I always said, I didn't even realize the town, but like with the Indians and Chiefs, there's going to be one baseball team in town.
Yeah.
So I own one of one.
Yeah.
With the hockey and Chiefs, they own the only soccer team. How would it be if you had the market on the hamburger, fast
The
food
one-
hamburger?
the one
The
hamburger.
How about
Yeah.
if you had the only place you could buy a hamburger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then run
That
it
would
right.
be very cool. But you don't have that. You open a McDonald's, and then all of a sudden Carl's Jr.'s on the next corner, and Sonic is over
Yeah.
there.
So true.
So that's what I've always liked: unique assets, location, and I think the sports teams are very unique.
Well, if you ever
assets.
want to sell the hockey team.
no.
No.
What would I do?
No.
What would I do?
Just throwing it out there.
Just in case.
Well, Bobby,
Awesome.
thank
Well,
you so
thank
much.
you again,
Okay.
Bobby. Yep. I gotta
Absolutely.
run.
All right, you guys, thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.